Investment property. Should you buy one? Welcome to Jerome and Real Estate. I'm Jerome, your local realtor here in the Fountain and Colorado Springs area. Today we're going to go over investment property. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some of the pros and cons of getting into investment property. And maybe this will help you determine whether or not, an investment property is for you, all right? So, what are the types of property that could be considered investment property? And basically, it covers all types, right? The single family residence is the most common type. This is your standard, could be a 3 bed, 2 bath, 5 bed, 4 bath, doesn't really matter. The single family residence, detached, is usually your most common form of investment property. A lot of people use them as vacation homes, which they stay in for a very short amount of time, and then nowadays they're doing something like they're Airbnb in it for the rest of the time. Okay, but the most common form that you'll find is that you buy it, you don't ever live in it, and you rent it out to someone year round. It could be a condo, could be a townhome, and then you start stepping into things like a multifamily. This is your duplexes, triplex, quadplex. Okay. After that, you may even want to consider investing in what's known as commercial properties. Those are your hotels. It could even be restaurants and other types of commercial properties. But by far, the most common is your single family. Okay. Now, what are some of the pros and cons of getting into investment real estate? I'll start off with some of the pros, right? The value of your property might rise enough that you could sell it and make a profit. That's simple enough, okay? That's basically just determining your appreciation rate in the local area you're in. Let's say you buy a home for 200 grand. You have a plan in your head and you say, you know what, when it hits 250 or 300, that's when I want to sell and I want to claim the profit off of that. Simple enough. In addition to that, you could also be thinking about the tax deductions that you're going to have on your rental property. A lot of people don't realize that when it comes time to taxes, you get to claim on your investment property the mortgage interest. You get to claim the property taxes, even expenses like the advertising you did to try to get it rented. Okay. You can claim the repairs, the insurance you have on the home, right? So there are a number of things that you get to write off for your investment properties. Another pro is, obviously you can gain consistent income from long-term rentals. If you have got a mortgage, let's say your mortgage is $600, but you can rent it out for $800. And I'm just using ballpark figures. I'm not really going into serious detail here. But, if you're renting it out at 800 and your mortgage and insurance comes out to only 600, that's $200 a month that you're pocketing or reinvesting into something else that you're interested in. Okay. Now, just for kicks, let's say you magnified that and you had 10 properties pulling the exact same numbers, right? You're profiting $200 on each. Well, that means if you've got 10 properties in, that's 2 grand every single month simply for owning properties. There is some work involved, obviously. You're not going to just not do anything. As much as people say that it is passive income, it is not. There is work involved, but it's about as passive as you're going to get, Right. So the next pro that we see is when in an investment property, especially in a rental, you can pay down your mortgage using the rental income, obviously, right? And you can build equity basically using someone else's money. Okay, like in the what I just described, right? You had a mortgage plus insurance that came up to $600 per month. Someone is paying you to live in the home $800. They are building equity for you. Okay, and that's something that just cannot be looked over. You've got to think about that. You know, how much is that worth to you to be able to have equity growing in your asset and you're not even the one putting in the money for it? That's powerful stuff right there. One of the other pros that usually doesn't get talked about is the fact that you can refinance an investment property. Okay, you can draw out, and you could draw out the equity, refinance it, and the money that you draw out, what could you do with that? Well, you could spend it any way you wish, but let's think big again. What if you draw out that equity and you used it to put down on another property that you want, and you just keep it rolling, right? A lot of you were probably thinking, well, how would I ever get to 10 properties? It's possible that you could use something like that, where you just rinse and repeat over and over again, refinancing. But yeah, those are the pros. Now it's time to get into some of the cons. Okay, what could end up happening if you get into investment properties? Well, you could lose money. Plain and simple. You could lose money, especially if you're trying to flip a property. It could be a short-term flip, could be a long-term flip, doesn't really matter. If your numbers aren't right, if you don't really know what you're doing, if you haven't gotten the assistance of someone who does have experience in it, yeah, your numbers could be off and you could be wrong. You could have misjudged the market. The market could have taken a downturn for whatever reason. There are a number of reasons that it could have happened, right? So you definitely always want to have a backup plan when thinking about something like investment property. You are putting your money into something that is generally thought of as long term. So if you're one of these people who think that, well, a quick fix and flip is for me, but you don't know what you're doing, that could be an issue. Same thing could happen on long-term rental, right? You've just got to make sure that you're cautious and you're looking at long-term. Okay, another con. The mortgage requirements for an investment property may include a higher down payment, and they'll usually also include higher interest rates than you would see for a primary residence. Primary residence is where you live, right? So you got to be prepared for that. You've got to have enough cash on hand to handle that. The other con is that real estate is not a liquid asset, meaning that your money is locked away. If you need cash right away and you think, oh man, I'm rich because I've got all this money in real estate, yeah, that's correct. But if an emergency happens and all of your funds are locked up just in real estate, you're not going to be able to tap into that very quickly. You're gonna need to be flexible, and you need time to get that money out, either through, there are a number of ways that you can do it. You can either sell the home, you could do a cash out refinance. There are other methods that you could use to draw money out from a home as well, but those take time. Okay, it's a little complicated. And then, of course, the final con that I'm going to put out here is you either need to be prepared to manage the property yourself if you're looking at doing rental property, or you need to be able to hire a property manager, which is figured into your costs, right? So that's one of those things where your numbers have to be correct. Otherwise, you could end up losing money and you can't figure out why. Property managers usually will negotiate their fee. You know, and it's usually a percentage of the rental income. So that's something that you can look into. But those are the pros and cons, real quick, down and dirty, of an investment property. And if you want to, discuss more, learn more about it, that's something that, you could reach out to me for, because this is something I definitely have experience in. I have bought and sold quite a few homes, and it's something that I think about on a regular basis. I believe that almost everyone should have an investment property in their overall portfolio when they're thinking about investing. I think real estate, I think stocks, and now I also think crypto as well. Maybe we'll get into that in some other video. But yeah, if you like the content and you want to learn a little bit more, please reach out to me, JeromeandRealEstate.com. We'll catch you.